Despite its growing rarity, the allure of the black lion never fully disappeared. In the 21st century, as technology advanced, a new wave of wildlife enthusiasts took up the mantle of finding the black lion, armed with the vast expanse of Africa, a land of mystery, legend, and natural wonders, has long captivated the imagination of the world. Stretching from the towering peaks of the Atlas Mountains to the sun-drenched savannas and dense rainforests, the continent is home to countless species, many of which have become iconic symbols of the wilderness. But among all the majestic creatures that roam this ancient land, none have captured the collective awe of humankind quite like the lion. Known as the king of the jungle, the lion's regal presence commands respect from those who venture into its domain. However, there exists a rare and elusive breed of lion that has been the subject of fascination and intrigue for decades: the black lion. This creature, cloaked in a mane as dark as the night sky, has become the stuff of legend. For centuries, whispers of its existence have circulated among local tribes, safari guides, and animal enthusiasts, but the reality of the black lion remains a mystery to many. The origins of this magnificent beast are as enigmatic as the animal itself. It's believed that the black lion is not a separate species, but rather a rare genetic variation of the African lion. The condition that causes the black coloration is called melanism, a genetic mutation that results in an overproduction of melanin, giving the lion a much darker coat than its golden counterparts. While melanism is relatively common in other animals, such as leopards and panthers, the black lion is incredibly rare, making sightings an extraordinary event. The first recorded sighting of a black lion took place in the early 1900s, when a group of explorers stumbled upon a pride in the remote reaches of South Africa's Kalahari Desert. The black lion, which was thought to be a myth until then, caused a stir among the scientific community and captivated the imaginations of the public. As news of the sighting spread, the black lion quickly became a symbol of mystery and intrigue. Since then, there have been only a handful of confirmed sightings, and many believe that the creature has become so elusive that it has almost disappeared from the wild altogether. But the lure of the black lion remains irresistible. Over the years, countless individuals have ventured into the African wilderness, hoping to catch a glimpse of this rare and magnificent creature. Filmmakers, photographers, wildlife enthusiasts, and even curious tourists have flocked to the heart of Africa, armed with cameras, drones, and an unwavering determination to capture the black lion on film. They have combed the plains, traversed dense jungles, and crossed treacherous rivers in search of the elusive beast. But despite their efforts, most have returned empty-handed, their hopes dashed by the harsh realities of the wild. The black lion's rarity has only fueled the obsession with finding it. Safari guides and trackers, who have spent years in the African bush, will tell you that spotting a black lion is akin to finding a needle in a haystack. The lion's dark coat, which would seem to make it stand out, actually helps it blend into the shadows of the African landscape. It's a perfect adaptation for the night hunter, allowing the lion to slip through the darkness unnoticed. But for those seeking to capture the creature on film, it's a nightmare. The lion is elusive, often spotted only at dusk or dawn, and it doesn't give up its secrets easily. There have been countless stories of failed attempts to find the black lion. One of the most famous accounts comes from a well-known wildlife filmmaker who spent over a year in the Kalahari Desert in pursuit of the black lion. Armed with the latest technology, including night vision cameras and motion sensors, the filmmaker and his team scoured the desert day and night, searching for any sign of the elusive beast. After months of fruitless effort, they were ready to pack up and leave, their hopes dashed. But then one evening, just as they were about to call it a day, a lone lion appeared on the horizon. The team quickly set up their cameras, hoping that this would finally be their moment. As the lion drew closer, they were stunned. The animal's mane was as dark as the midnight sky, its eyes gleaming with a predatory intensity. The black lion, at last, had appeared before them. For a brief moment, Everything seemed perfect. But as the team began filming, the lion turned and vanished into the darkness, as if it had never been there at all. Despite the breathtaking footage they had managed to capture, the team left the desert feeling both exhilarated and frustrated. They had seen the black lion, but they had failed to capture it in all its glory. It was a reminder of how elusive this creature truly is. But the pursuit of the black lion is not just about capturing it on film. It's about connecting with the untamed wilderness of Africa in a way that few ever get to experience. Those who have come close to the black lion, whether through chance encounters or painstaking efforts, speak of the profound sense of awe and wonder that it inspires. There's something almost mystical about the creature, as if it holds the secrets of the land itself. For many, finding the black lion is not just about the thrill of discovery, it's about a deeper connection to the natural world, one that transcends the boundaries of time and space. The black lion has come to represent more than just an animal. It has become a symbol of the untamed spirit of Africa. It embodies the mystery and beauty of the continent, a reminder that despite all our advances in technology and knowledge, there are still wonders out there that we cannot fully understand or control. It's a creature that exists on the edge of myth and reality, a reminder that nature, in all its power and mystery, remains unpredictable and wild. As the years pass and more people journey to Africa in search of the black lion, the creature has become increasingly rare. Some believe that the black lion is a fading species, one that is slowly being pushed to the brink of extinction. Others argue that the lion is simply evolving, adapting to the changing landscape of the African wilderness, and that its presence is not so much fading as it is becoming more elusive. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is clear: the black lion is a creature that continues to captivate and inspire, a living legend that will remain etched in the history of Africa for generations to come. As the sun sets on the vast African plains, the black lion remains an enigma, a shadow in the night, waiting to be discovered by the next intrepid adventurer brave enough to seek it out. And as long as that mystery endures, the black lion will continue to fuel the dreams and imaginations of those who seek to uncover its secrets. The myth of the black lion has a long and storied history, one that stretches far beyond the confines of scientific exploration and into the heart of African folklore. For centuries, indigenous tribes across the continent have shared stories of lions with dark, shimmering manes, creatures that were said to possess supernatural powers. These lions were often considered sacred, seen as symbols of strength, wisdom, and protection. Some tribes believed that the black lion had the ability to communicate with the spirits of the ancestors, and that it was a guardian of the natural world, watching over the balance of life in the African wilderness. The creatures were revered, and sightings of them were often considered omens of great significance. As the years passed, the story of the black lion was passed down through generations, evolving from a simple tale of a mysterious animal into something far more complex. The legend grew, and with it, the allure of the creature. Travelers, explorers, and even colonial hunters began to take an interest in these stories. But most of them thought of the black lion as nothing more than a myth. For many years it remained just that, a legend, a fantasy whispered around campfires and shared in hushed tones. But then in the late 19th century, the first verified sighting of a black lion was recorded by a European explorer, a man named Leopold Janssen. Janssen, a renowned naturalist, had spent much of his life in Africa studying its wildlife, and he had heard the stories of the black lions from the local tribes. Skeptical but intrigued, he set out on an expedition into the remote Kalahari Desert, hoping to verify the existence of the creature. After weeks of searching, Janssen and his team finally stumbled upon a pride of lions. One of them, a massive male with a dark, almost black mane, stood out from the rest. Janssen's heart raced as he observed the creature, his mind racing to make sense of what he was witnessing. He took detailed notes and sketches, documenting the lion's unique features. The sighting of the black lion was a breakthrough moment for Janssen and the scientific community. No longer could the creature be dismissed as a myth. It was real. and it was unlike any other lion on the planet. Janssen's discovery sparked a frenzy of interest. Scientists, researchers, and animal enthusiasts from all over the world descended on Africa, eager to see the black lion for themselves. The Kalahari Desert became a hotspot for safari-goers and adventurers alike, all hoping to catch a glimpse of the legendary beast. But as with most things in the wild, the black lion proved to be elusive. It wasn't long before the initial excitement turned to frustration as more and more people attempted, and failed, to locate the black lion. Despite the flurry of activity, sightings became increasingly rare. Some speculated that the lions had been driven into hiding by the encroachment of human settlements, while others believed that the creature's rarity was simply a result of its genetic mutation. The black lion's mystique continued to grow, and the stories surrounding it began to take on a life of their own. For decades, every confirmed sighting of the black lion was met with wild excitement, and the creature became a symbol of Africa's untamed wilderness. But as the years went by, the number of reported sightings dwindled, and the black lion slowly faded from the public's consciousness. Its legend persisted, but fewer and fewer people were able to see it in person. Definition cameras, drones, and cutting-edge tracking equipment, these modern-day adventurers ventured into the African wilderness, determined to capture the elusive creature on film. Yet, even with all their modern tools and gadgets, most of them returned empty-handed. One such adventurer was a filmmaker named Sarah Bennett, known for her work on wildlife documentaries. Sarah had spent years filming some of the world's most endangered species, but the black lion remained her elusive holy grail. After hearing stories of its rare appearances in the Kalahari Desert, Sarah decided to embark on a journey to document the creature's existence. She assembled a small team of experts, including seasoned trackers and biologists, and set off for Africa with high hopes. For months, Sarah and her team scoured the Kalahari, navigating harsh desert terrain and battling the elements. They relied on their tracking skills, hoping to follow any signs of the black lion's presence. They set up cameras, staked out watering holes, and even used night vision equipment to search for the animal under the cover of darkness. But despite their tireless efforts, they came up empty-handed. The black lion, it seemed, had become a ghost in the desert, slipping further and further into the shadows. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah's frustration grew. She had witnessed the incredible beauty of Africa's wildlife, filmed majestic herds of elephants, elusive leopards, and powerful rhinos, but the black lion continued to elude her. There were moments when she thought she had caught a glimpse of it, an eerie shadow moving through the brush, the sound of a deep roar echoing in the distance. But each time, it turned out to be nothing more than a figment of her imagination. The black lion, it seemed, was not just rare, it was a true enigma. But despite the setbacks, Sarah and her team refused to give up. They believed in the legend of the black lion, and were determined to uncover the truth behind its mystery. They knew that the creature's rarity only added to its allure, and that finding it would be a momentous achievement. It wasn't just about capturing footage for a documentary, it was about proving that the black lion was real and deserving of its place in the history of Africa's wild wonders. Sarah's journey mirrored the struggles of countless others who had come before her, each one driven by the desire to unlock the secrets of the black lion. Some, like Sarah, dedicated years of their lives to the pursuit, while others simply made a fleeting attempt and gave up. But one thing was certain, the black lion was not an easy creature to find. Its elusiveness had only heightened its mystique, turning it into one of the most coveted animals in the world. As the team pressed on, they began to question whether the black lion had become more than just a physical creature. Was it possible that the black lion had become a symbol, something beyond mere flesh and bone? Perhaps it was its rarity, its near-mythical status, that had made it so sought after. The creature had come to represent the ultimate challenge for wildlife explorers, a test of patience, perseverance, and luck. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was meant to remain a mystery, a creature so rare and so special that only a select few would ever lay eyes on it. As Sarah Bennett's expedition continued, the tension within her team grew. They had been in the Kalahari Desert for nearly 4 months, each passing day a reminder of how elusive the black lion had become. The trackers were exhausted, their faces sunburned and their spirits tested by the endless sand dunes and arid landscape. But there was something else that weighed on them, something deeper, an unspoken belief that the longer they spent searching for the black lion, the more it seemed as if they were chasing a shadow. The lion was a legend, yes, but was it still real? To some of her team, the quest was beginning to feel less like a search and more like an obsession. The idea of finding the black lion was no longer just about proving it existed. It had become a race against time. The pressure to capture the black lion on film intensified with each failure. Sarah, however, was unwavering in her determination. She had spent a lifetime in the wilds of Africa, and she knew that the landscape itself had a way of testing you. But this was different. The black lion wasn't just a rare animal. It had become a symbol of something much greater, a challenge that represented the heart of Africa's mystery. The world around them was transforming as well. In the years since Janssen's discovery of the black lion, the Kalahari Desert had seen increased human activity. Mining operations, land development, and tourism were all encroaching on the once untouched wilderness. It was an undeniable truth that the black lion's habitat was shrinking, and with it, the creature's chances of survival. The pressures of human expansion were pushing many species to the brink, and the black lion, it seemed, was no exception. The pressures of human expansion were pushing many species to the brink, into the desert, away from the roads and human settlements, finding refuge in places where even the most skilled trackers could not go. It was becoming clear that the black lion's habitat was not just hard to find, it was rapidly vanishing. The thought weighed heavily on Sarah's team. Had they been too late? Had the black lion become another casualty of mankind's expansion into the wild? The question hung in the air, unspoken but ever present. Despite these fears, Sarah's drive only intensified. She knew the stakes. This wasn't just about filming the lion. It was about documenting the last vestiges of a creature that might soon disappear entirely. If they didn't find the black lion, no one would. And so the team pushed on, moving deeper into the Kalahari's heart, past areas where few had dared to go. They sought out local guides who knew the land, hoping that they might have some insight into the lion's movements. But even the most experienced trackers seemed to know little, their faces marked by years of hard work in the desert, but lacking the confidence they once had. As the team ventured further into unknown territory, they began to notice subtle signs that they were getting closer to something important. Footprints in the sand, broken branches, and distant calls that seemed to echo through the night. These small clues felt like breadcrumbs leading them down a path that might finally bring them face to face with the elusive black lion. One night, as the team set up camp near a dry riverbed, Sarah sat by the fire staring into the flames. The desert had a way of making you think deeply, and tonight she was lost in thought. The weight of the journey, the strain on her team, and the uncertainty of whether they would succeed in their mission all weighed on her mind. In that quiet moment, she realized something profound. This wasn't just about filming the black lion. This journey had become about something much bigger. It was about preserving the spirit of Africa's wilderness, about understanding that this wild place was a living, breathing entity, and that the creatures who inhabited it were as much a part of its essence as the land itself. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a distant roar, a deep rumbling growl that sent chills down her spine. The lion's voice carried on the wind, echoing through the night. It was unmistakable. The black lion. Her heart skipped a beat. It had been so long since they had heard anything like it. The team, sensing the shift in the air, quickly gathered their equipment. But this was the moment they had been waiting for. They set off in the direction of the roar, moving quickly but cautiously. The trackers led the way, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the lion's presence. The team moved in silence, each footstep a soft whisper against the dusty ground. The only sound was the faint rustling of the wind and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. Sarah's breath was shallow, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel it, the anticipation, the electricity in the air. This was it. They were close. As they crept through the thick brush, a shape appeared in the distance, just barely visible in the fading light of dusk. It was a lion, but it was different from any they had seen before. Its mane was darker, almost black, and as it turned its head toward them, the team could see its eyes, piercing and intense. The black lion, after months of searching, of endless days in the desert, they had found it. The creature was standing tall and proud, as if it knew exactly how rare it was, how precious its existence had become. Sarah's hands shook as she brought the camera to her eye. She had seen lions before, but none like this. The black lion stood in the fading light, its dark mane shimmering in the glow of the setting sun. For a moment everything felt still. Time seemed to slow, as the lion regarded them, its powerful frame outlined against the vast expanse of the Kalahari. It was as if the world had stopped turning, and for this brief moment, Sarah and her team were witnessing something truly extraordinary. But then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the black lion turned and disappeared into the brush, vanishing into the shadows. The team was left in stunned silence, their cameras rolling but the lion nowhere to be seen. They had found it, but just as swiftly, it had slipped away, as if it had never been. For Sarah, the experience was both exhilarating and frustrating. She had seen the black lion with her own eyes, but capturing it on film, capturing its essence, was another challenge altogether. She knew that they had been fortunate to have even encountered the lion. In truth, most of the world would never know that it existed, let alone get the chance to see. The black lion had become even more elusive, more mysterious, and more precious with every passing day. But for Sarah, it was a reminder that sometimes, the journey itself was just as important as the destination. The following days were a blur of anticipation and frustration. After their brief, breathtaking encounter with the black lion, Sarah and her team spent countless hours scouring the same area, hoping for another sighting. The desert, as vast and unyielding as it was, seemed to mock their efforts. No matter how many hours they spent tracking, no matter how many nights they stayed awake, the black lion remained a fleeting shadow in their minds. As the days wore on, Sarah noticed a subtle shift in her team's demeanor. The initial excitement from their sighting had begun to wane, replaced by exhaustion and a creeping doubt. The team was starting to question whether they would ever capture the lion on film. For most, the adventure had turned into an exhausting chase, one that felt more like an elusive dream than a tangible goal. The stories they had heard before, the promises of a majestic creature in the wild, seemed more distant now. The black lion had become something much more intangible than they had imagined. The team had glimpsed it, but capturing it on film was an entirely different challenge. One evening, as the sun began to set, Sarah and the trackers gathered around the campfire. The mood was subdued, the firelight casting long shadows over their tired faces. Everyone was quietly reflecting on the days spent in the desert, the many miles covered, the dust in their eyes, and the heat that seemed to drain them of every ounce of energy. Tara wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. She knew that the black lion, elusive as it was, had its reasons for hiding, for slipping away into the night. She stood up, the weight of her years of experience guiding her decision. "We're not leaving," she declared, her voice steady. "We know it's out here, we've seen it, and it's real. And we're going to keep looking until we find it. This isn't just about us, or a documentary, it's about something bigger." Her words seemed to resonate with the team, stirring something inside them. They had come this far, pushed through this much adversity, and seen the creature that everyone else only dreamed about. They couldn't stop now, not when they were so close. Sarah's voice carried conviction, and in that moment the team found new purpose. They would continue the search, no matter how long it took, because they understood that sometimes, the hardest challenges led to the greatest rewards. The next morning, they set off again, deeper into the heart of the Kalahari Desert.
pushing further than they had ever gone before. The air was thick with dust, and the heat was stifling, but they kept moving forward. Sarah noticed that the landscape was changing. The familiar dry riverbeds and sparse vegetation were slowly giving way to thicker brush, taller grasses, and the occasional acacia tree. It was as though the desert itself had grown wilder, more untamed as they journeyed farther into its depths. As the days passed, the team began to notice more signs that they were on the right path. They found fresh tracks in the sand, large round paw prints with the unmistakable sign of a powerful lion. There were signs of recent kills as well, impalas, springbok, and other small antelopes that had fallen prey to the lions of the desert. The team's excitement grew with every clue, each one adding to the mounting evidence that they were closing in on the black lion's territory. But there was something else at play now. A sense of urgency had begun to fill the air. The team knew that the black lion's habitat was dwindling, that the wilderness around them was shrinking. They couldn't help but wonder how much longer would the black lion remain in these parts. Would they be the last to witness its existence, or would the desert eventually swallow it whole, leaving nothing but stories and legends behind? It was during one of these intense moments of reflection that Sarah had an epiphany. The black lion wasn't just an animal, it was a symbol of the wild itself. It represented a time when the natural world was still untamed, when creatures like the lion roamed freely across vast, unspoiled landscapes. The black lion had become more than just a rare creature. It was a reminder of the fragility of the earth, of how quickly wilderness could be lost if humans didn't take care. In that moment, Sarah realized that their journey was no longer just about capturing the lion. It was about protecting its legacy, about ensuring that the wildness of Africa could continue to thrive, even in the face of increasing threats. That evening, as the team camped under a canopy of stars, Sarah shared her thoughts with the group. "We're not just here to find the black lion," she said quietly. "We're here to preserve what it represents. This is about more than us. It's about the wild, and what happens when we don't protect it. If we can find the black lion and document its existence, maybe we can remind the world of why we need to care about these places before it's too late." The words hung in the air, and for the first time in days, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had been so focused on the chase, on the elusive nature of the black lion.
As they observed the pride, one of the trackers noticed something in the distance, a shadow moving silently between the dunes. It was dark, unmistakably large, and it moved with purpose. The team held their breath. The black lion, it was there. They watched as it moved gracefully, its dark mane almost glowing against the pale desert landscape. The lion was aware of them, but did not seem bothered by their presence. It stood tall, surveying the landscape as if it were the ruler of its domain, and for a brief moment, the team stood frozen, witnessing the kind of beauty few would ever get the chance to see. Then as quickly as it had appeared, the black lion disappeared into the brush, leaving the team in stunned silence. They had seen it again. This time, they had captured it on film, though the encounter was brief and fleeting. But it was enough. The black lion, elusive as it was, had allowed them to witness its grandeur one more time. They didn't need to chase it anymore. The lion had given them a gift, one that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The team packed up camp that night, knowing that their journey had come to an end. They had found the black lion. More than that, they had found something deeper. The wilderness of Africa was fragile, and it was disappearing. But as long as creatures like the black lion roamed its wild spaces, there was still hope. As the expedition slowly made its way back towards civilization, the landscape around them seemed to shift. The Kalahari Desert, which had once felt so vast and eternal, now seemed smaller, as if the very earth was closing in around them. They had witnessed the black lion, but in doing so, they had also encountered a stark reminder of the fragility of the wilderness. The team was quieter now, their thoughts consumed by the experiences they had just lived through. There were no celebrations, no high fives, just a deep shared understanding that what they had witnessed was rare, almost impossible. But at the same time, it was fleeting. The black lion was part of a disappearing world, and the moment they had shared with it would soon be nothing more than a memory. Sarah, in particular, felt the weight of the journey. The black lion had become a symbol of the wilderness, a creature that stood at the crossroads of conservation and extinction. The journey had not just been about finding a rare animal, it had been about something much larger, a reflection of the struggles faced by the world's remaining wild places. As Sarah looked out across the desert, she couldn't help but wonder what would become of the Kalahari in the years to come. Would it continue to support creatures like the black lion, or would the march of human progress inevitably erase everything in its path? The team had returned to their base camp, where they began reviewing their footage. The sighting of the black lion had been brief, but it had been powerful. The raw power and beauty of the creature had been captured on film, and as the footage was played back, the team was reminded of how incredible it had been to see the lion in its natural habitat. Sarah could see the awe in the eyes of her team members as they watched the footage. It was a moment of triumph, but also one of deep reflection. They had accomplished what so many had failed to do. They had captured the black lion on camera. But as Sarah watched the footage, she also knew that the true story wasn't just about the lion. It was about the wilderness that surrounded it. It was about a world that was changing, and the need to protect it before it was lost forever. The team had learned something in their time in the Kalahari, a lesson that could not be captured in any film or photograph. It was a lesson about the importance of preserving the wild places that still existed in the world. The black lion, once thought to be a myth, had shown them how important it was to protect those creatures that were so rare and unique. But it also showed them that these creatures couldn't survive on their own. They needed protection. They needed space. They needed the world to care. It was then that Sarah decided that their journey was not over. The footage they had captured, though valuable, was only a part of the story. There was still so much to be done. The black lion had become a symbol, a reminder that there was more to life than the concrete jungles and cities that so many people had come to call home. Sarah knew that it was time to share this story with the world, to show people the beauty of the wilderness, the fragility of the animals that called it home, and the urgent need to protect these places before they were gone forever. The team spent the next few weeks editing the footage, piecing together the story of their expedition. They included the trials and challenges they had faced, the exhaustion, and the moments of doubt. But they also captured the raw emotion of their discovery, the moment when they first laid eyes on the black lion. It was a story of perseverance, of hope, and of the incredible power of nature. It was a story that needed to be told. As they finished the final cut of their documentary, Sarah couldn't help but think about the hundreds if not thousands of people who had tried and failed to capture the black lion on film. It wasn't just about the rarity of the animal itself, it was about the mystery that surrounded it. The black lion had become a symbol of something more than just a rare mutation in the animal kingdom. It was a symbol of nature's ability to remain hidden, to exist just beyond the reach of those who sought to understand it. And in that mystery lay its power. The documentary was released to critical acclaim, but the impact it had on the world was even greater than Sarah had expected. People around the world watched in awe as the black lion appeared on their screens, its dark mane glowing in the fading light of the desert. The film sparked a renewed interest in conservation, in protecting Africa's wild spaces, and in ensuring that creatures like the black lion would not disappear into the annals of history. But even as the film gained traction, Sarah knew that the story didn't end there. The black lion was still out there, somewhere in the vast uncharted expanse of the Kalahari Desert. And as much as the world had learned from their journey, Sarah knew that there were still so many unknowns. The Kalahari was a vast, untamable wilderness, and no one could predict what the future would hold for the black lion or for the wild spaces that had given it life. With each passing day, Sarah found herself drawn back to the desert. The call of the wild, the pull of the unknown, was a force that she couldn't resist. She knew that the black lion had become more than just a creature to her. It had become a symbol of everything she had dedicated her life to. And as long as the wilderness remained, there would always be another adventure, another mystery, another challenge waiting to be uncovered. But for now, Sarah and her team could rest, knowing that they had done something important. They had found the black lion, and in doing so, they had captured a moment in time that would be remembered for generations to come. The legend of the black lion, once shrouded in mystery and doubt, had been brought to light. And as the world watched, they were reminded that the wild, no matter how rare or elusive, still had a place in the world, a place worth fighting for. As Sarah looked out over the horizon, she felt a sense of peace. They had done it. They had found the black lion, and in doing so, they had given the world a glimpse of a creature so rare, so unique, that it could never be forgotten. The story of the black lion would live on, not just in the hearts of those who had witnessed it, but in the hearts of those who would fight to protect it for generations to come. Months had passed since Sarah and her team returned from the Kalahari Desert, but the impact of their journey still reverberated through the world. The black lion had become an icon, a symbol of the untamed wilderness that still existed, albeit in limited pockets scattered across the globe. Their documentary had sparked conversations about conservation, about the need to protect these wild places, and the animals that inhabited them. Yet as much as they had accomplished, Sarah knew their work was far from over. The documentary had garnered millions of views, but it was also met with a flood of new questions. Some of them were the usual inquiries. People wanted to know how they had found the black lion, what gear they had used, and what it was like to witness such a rare creature in the wild. But there were deeper questions too. Questions about the future of the black lion, about its genetic legacy, and whether it was truly an anomaly, or part of something larger, something that could hold the key to understanding the resilience of nature. These questions didn't have easy answers. But Sarah had learned long ago that part of being a documentarian and a conservationist was accepting the mysteries that came with the territory. The black lion's existence was one of those mysteries, a phenomenon that had captivated the world and sparked a wider discussion on the preservation of rare species and habitats. But as Sarah sat in her small office, reviewing the final edits for the documentary's release, she felt the weight of another, even more pressing challenge: how to ensure that the black lion's story wasn't forgotten, that it didn't become just another fleeting moment in the endless cycle of news and viral videos. The black lion was rare, but the conditions that allowed it to thrive were even rarer and more fragile. The wilderness that had given birth to it was disappearing, slowly but surely. Sarah knew that the black lion's story had the power to inspire change. But for that to happen, it needed to be told again and again, not just through documentaries, but through action. Conservation efforts across Africa had always been a balancing act between preserving wilderness, supporting local communities, and dealing with the encroaching threats of poaching and habitat destruction. But now, with the black lion's image embedded in the minds of millions, Sarah saw a window of opportunity. People cared, and that care could translate into action. Determined to build on the momentum their film had generated, Sarah reached out to conservation organizations, wildlife reserves, and government agencies across Africa. She started speaking at conferences, meeting with wildlife experts, and collaborating with ecologists to develop new strategies for protecting rare species like the black lion. But it wasn't just about preserving the animal itself. It was about preserving its environment. The Kalahari Desert, home to the black lion, was becoming increasingly vulnerable. Water sources were drying up, the effects of climate change were making their mark, and human settlements were encroaching on the once vast territories that wildlife had roamed freely. Sarah's phone buzzed, breaking her train of thought. It was a message from a former colleague, a wildlife biologist named Marcus, who had been instrumental in the initial expedition. The subject of the message was simple: black lion sighting confirmed. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She clicked on the message, which included a link to a new news story. It turned out that the black lion hadn't just been seen in the Kalahari. It had been spotted in a different part of Africa entirely, a location hundreds of miles away. The sighting wasn't just significant because of the lion's rarity. It was significant because it indicated that the black lion might not be as rare as everyone thought. Perhaps the gene that caused the unusual color mutation was more widespread across the lion population. Perhaps it wasn't just a single isolated individual. The discovery opened up a whole new realm of possibilities. Was the black lion simply an extraordinary occurrence? Or was it the beginning of something bigger? Intrigued and energized by the news, Sarah reached out to Marcus immediately. He was as surprised as she was by the new development. "We've got to go back," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We've seen what we've seen, but this could be something huge." Sarah didn't hesitate. She knew what this meant. The black lion was not a solitary figure. It was a symbol of something much greater. If they could confirm this new sighting, they could rewrite everything they thought they knew about the species. It was an opportunity they couldn't afford to miss. Within weeks, Sarah and her team found themselves back on the continent, this time venturing to a remote part of southern Africa, far from the Kalahari. The landscape here was different. Rolling hills and thick scrubland replaced the barren desert, but there was an unmistakable energy in the air. They were on the trail of the black lion again, and this time it felt different. As Sarah and her team ventured deeper into the wilderness, they encountered new signs, paw prints larger than any lions they had seen before, and fresh kills that suggested the presence of a dominant predator in the area. The black lion, or perhaps more of its kind, was still out there, and it had managed to evade capture for years, perhaps even centuries. But this time, there was something different about the journey. The team was no longer just searching for a rare animal. They were searching for answers. The discovery of the black lion in a different region was more than just a curiosity. It was a pivotal moment in the study of Africa's wildlife. Could this mutation have been spreading silently through the lion population? Could there be more black lions, hidden in remote regions waiting to be discovered? Every clue they followed seemed to lead them deeper into the wilderness, further from civilization, and closer to something unknown. It was as though the land itself was holding its breath, waiting for the team to uncover the truth. Days turned into weeks, and still, the black lion eluded them. But they could feel it just beyond the horizon, just out of reach. One evening, as the sun set over the rugged hills, Sarah sat alone by the campfire, staring into the flickering flames. She had come a long way since their first expedition, and the journey was starting to feel like it had a life of its own. The search for the black lion had taken on new meaning for her. It was no longer just a quest for discovery, but a symbol of something larger, a fight to protect the wild, to preserve it for future generations. As Sarah reflected on their journey, she realized that the black lion was more than just an animal. It was a story of survival, of resilience, of life persisting against all odds in a world that seemed to be constantly changing. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming challenges, there was always hope, that the wild could still fight back. The lion's story was far from over. The team had been in southern Africa for nearly a month, and still, the black lion remained elusive. The landscape had shifted again, now more dense with thick forests and tall grasses that seemed to swallow the horizon. The team moved cautiously, keeping their senses sharp for any sign of their quarry. Despite their exhaustive efforts, there was no guarantee that they would find the black lion again, and the frustration was beginning to set in. Sarah had spent countless nights staring into the campfire, contemplating the possibility that the creature had moved deeper into the heart of Africa, or worse, that it was a fleeting anomaly that had simply disappeared into the wilderness. Their cameras had captured incredible footage before, but that elusive sighting had become an image that was slipping through their fingers like sand. They had found the black lion once before. What if this was their only chance to see it again?
What if they had already missed their window? But then something unexpected happened. It was early one morning just before dawn when they heard it. A distant roar that vibrated through the ground, sending chills down the team's spines. It was a lion's roar, but there was something different about it. Just something more powerful, more resonant, as if the very earth trembled in response. The sound echoed through the dense forest, and for a moment the team froze. Then in unison, they all looked to Sarah. "We have to follow it," Sarah said, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "This is our chance." With a renewed sense of urgency, the team sprang into action. They packed their gear quickly and began their march toward the source of the roar, which seemed to grow louder with each passing moment. The terrain was tough, thick with underbrush, and difficult to navigate. The sound of the lion's roar was now unmistakable, louder and closer, reverberating through the trees like an ancient challenge. It felt like the land itself was calling them forward, urging them to discover the secret that lay hidden in its depths. For hours the team trekked through the forest, with each step bringing them closer to their goal. The air was thick with humidity, and the silence between the roars of the lion was deafening. They moved cautiously, aware that they were nearing the territory of a predator unlike any they had encountered before. The black lion was not just an animal, it was a legend, and the stakes were higher than ever. The world had already witnessed its existence once. Would they get to see it again? Or would this creature remain as elusive as a ghost? Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they found the clearing. It was vast and open, the tall grasses swaying gently in the breeze. At the center of the clearing stood the black lion, its dark mane shimmering in the soft morning light, unlike anything the team had ever seen before. The lion stood tall and proud, its piercing eyes scanning the horizon, alert and aware of their presence. For a moment it didn't move, just watched them, as if calculating its next move. The team stood frozen in awe, their cameras rolling. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the majestic creature in front of her, knowing that what they were witnessing was something few, if any, had ever been fortunate enough to see. The black lion's presence felt like a dream, a rare and fleeting moment that seemed too perfect to be real. Its dark coat blended seamlessly with the shadowy underbrush, making it appear as though it was part of the very landscape itself. But there was no time to savor the beauty of the moment. The lion began to move, its muscles rippling beneath its coat. Slowly, it turned its head toward the team and began to walk toward them with deliberate steps. The sound of its paws hitting the ground was like a drumbeat, heavy and powerful. The air seemed to thicken, as if the lion was commanding the very environment around it. The team remained still, afraid to move, afraid to break the fragile tension that hung in the air. Sarah held her breath as the black lion moved closer, its gaze never leaving them. There was no fear in its eyes, only curiosity and dominance. The lion was in control, and Sarah could feel the raw power it radiated. This was no ordinary lion. This was something more, a creature forged in the heart of the wilderness, a symbol of the untamed forces of nature. It was both magnificent and terrifying, and for a brief moment Sarah wondered whether this lion understood just how important its existence was to the world. As the lion drew closer, the team began to realize just how rare this encounter was. They had hoped to witness something extraordinary, but they had never expected to be so close to it. That there was an overwhelming sense of privilege in the black lion had become more than just an animal to them. It was a reflection of the natural world's fragility, its beauty, and its power. It was a reminder of how much was at stake in the fight for conservation. And then, as if the lion had decided it had seen enough, it stopped. It stood there for a long moment, its piercing eyes locked onto the team. The silence in the clearing was deafening, broken only by the soft rustle of the wind through the trees. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the lion turned and disappeared into the dense underbrush, its form blending into the shadows as though it had never been there at all. For a long time no one spoke. The team stood frozen, still processing what they had just witnessed. Finally, Sarah exhaled, breaking the silence. Did we just see that?" she asked in disbelief. Marcus, who had been staring at the spot where the lion had vanished, was the first to speak. "We saw it," he said quietly. "We really saw it." The team slowly began to collect their thoughts, their minds racing to comprehend what had just happened. They had come to find the black lion, and they had done it. But there was something more profound in the experience than simply capturing the image of the elusive animal on film. There was a connection to something deeper, something primal. The black lion was not just a symbol of rarity, it was a symbol of the wild itself, of the forces that shaped the world long before humans ever set foot on it. And in that moment, Sarah realized that their journey was far from over. The team returned to camp later that evening, each of them silently processing the day's events. They had witnessed the black lion once again, but it was clear that the story was still unfolding. What they had seen was just a glimpse into the heart of the wilderness, an ancient, untamed world that was still full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And they were determined to be part of that journey, to continue fighting for the preservation of the wild and the creatures that called it home. As Sarah sat by the campfire that night, staring into the flickering flames, she thought about everything that had brought them here, the years of searching, the failures, the challenges and the triumphs. The black lion had become a symbol of hope, but also a call to action. It was a reminder that nature was fragile, that the wild was constantly, and that they had a responsibility to protect it. The roar of the lion echoed in her mind, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. They had found the black lion, but more importantly, they had found a deeper connection to the wilderness. The journey was not over, it had only just begun. The black lion was out there, waiting to be discovered, and Sarah knew that as long as there was still hope, there would always be more to learn, more to protect, and more to fight for. The weeks following the sighting of the black lion were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Sarah and her team, armed with new footage and a wealth of data, returned to their headquarters to sift through their findings. It was clear that the black lion was no longer just an anomaly. It was the symbol of something much larger, a call to action for conservation efforts across the African continent. But as they reviewed their footage and began to map out a strategy for the future, the significance of their discovery became more complex. The first task at hand was to share the footage with the world. It was a rare and incredibly powerful moment to capture the black lion on film in such a pristine environment. The footage had the potential to revolutionize how people viewed wildlife conservation and the importance of protecting these rare species. However, there were risks involved in exposing such a discovery. Sarah knew that with the attention that would come from releasing the footage, there would also be increased pressure on the land and the animals that inhabited it. Already, the region where the black lion had been found was facing growing concerns about poaching, encroaching human settlements, and the threats of illegal wildlife trade. The moment the world learned of the black lion's existence in this area, it would draw attention from all corners of the globe. And with that attention, there was the very real risk that the creature would become a target. Conservationists, both local and international, warned that the immediate release of the footage could jeopardize the lion's safety. The black lion had managed to evade humans for so long, and now there was the chance that it would no longer remain hidden. The pressure to protect the black lion from the eyes of the world weighed heavily on Sarah. She knew that the world deserved to know the truth, but she also knew that if they weren't careful, they could inadvertently doom the black lion to the same fate as so many rare species before it, extinction driven by human greed. It was a dilemma that consumed Sarah in the days after the sighting. She found herself wrestling with the decision. What should be done next? Should they release the footage and risk bringing unwanted attention to the black lion, or should they protect its location, withholding the images and letting the story remain an untold secret for a little while longer? The dilemma wasn't just about the black lion, it was about the future of wildlife conservation in Africa. The black lion had become a symbol of all that was at stake: the loss of biodiversity, the destruction of habitats, and the ever-present threat of extinction. This lion, in all its rare glory, had become a rallying cry for a movement to protect what was left of the wild. But at the same time, Sarah knew that the spotlight could quickly become a double-edged sword. The world had a short attention span, and if the lion was hunted down, it would be a tragic end to what could have been a powerful moment in history. With all this weighing on her mind, Sarah convened a meeting with the team, along with wildlife experts and local conservationists who had been working tirelessly to protect the area. Together they debated the best course of action. Should they broadcast their findings, or should they hold off and protect the lion's territory for a while longer? After hours of discussion, the team came to a decision. They would keep the lion's location hidden for the time being. It was the hardest decision they had ever made, but they knew it was the right one. The footage would be archived, protected, and used only for educational
purposes. They would continue their conservation efforts in secrecy, gathering data and tracking the black lion's movements without alerting the world to its precise location. The release of the footage would come, but it would not be rushed. The lion needed to be safeguarded first. With this decision made, the team focused their energy on protecting the black lion and its habitat. They worked with local authorities to establish a wildlife sanctuary in the region, securing the land for future generations. The sanctuary was designed to be a safe haven for all wildlife, but it was especially dedicated to protecting rare and endangered species like the black lion. Local communities were brought into the fold, educating them about the importance of preserving their natural environment and ensuring that the benefits of conservation were shared with them. Sarah felt a deep sense of relief after making the decision. There was still so much work to be done, but they had taken the first step toward ensuring that the black lion would survive long enough to become a symbol of hope for future generations. Months passed, and the world went on, unaware of the quiet revolution taking place in the heart of Africa. The team continued to track the black lion, gathering more footage, more data, and more evidence that this extraordinary animal was thriving. It had become a ghost of the wild, a creature that no one truly knew, but everyone felt its presence. It had retreated deeper into the forest, but the sanctuary was doing its job. Poaching was on the decline, and the land was being restored, 1 acre at a time. But even as Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment, she couldn't help but wonder what the future held for the black lion. Would the world ever see it in all its glory? Would humanity rise to the challenge of protecting the wild before it was too late? The black lion, like so many other creatures in the world, existed on the brink of a fragile balance. One wrong move, and everything could crumble. In the quiet of the sanctuary, Sarah found herself returning to the same question over and over again. What would it take to truly protect these creatures, to ensure their survival in a world that seemed determined to destroy them? And would the black lion ever be more than just a fleeting image in the history books? A symbol of a species that was almost lost forever? It was a question that haunted her, but it also fueled her resolve. The black lion was a reminder that there was still so much left to fight for. The world needed to change, and if the black lion could be the catalyst for that change, then Sarah and her team would do everything in their power to make sure it had the chance to thrive. As Sarah sat on the porch of the research station one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, she thought of all the people who had tried and failed to find the black lion. They had all come with dreams of discovery, of capturing the rarest of creatures on film. But in the end, the lion was never about the pursuit of fame or fortune. It had always been about something bigger, a call to action, a reminder of the power and fragility of the natural world. The black lion wasn't just a creature of myth, it was a creature of truth, a creature of survival. And Sarah knew that, no matter how long it took, they would continue the fight for its survival, because that fight was the fight for the future of the wild itself. The months that followed were a whirlwind of activity for Sarah and her team. The sanctuary they had worked so hard to establish was beginning to show signs of success, and the black lion seemed to be thriving in its protected environment. They continued to track its movements from afar, using hidden cameras and drones to monitor its territory without disturbing it. Every piece of footage they collected was valuable, and each glimpse of the lion reinforced the belief that their decision to keep its location secret had been the right one. But as the black lion's presence continued to make an impact on conservation efforts in the region, something unexpected happened. Word of the sanctuary began to spread. It started with whispers among local communities who had seen the team's efforts firsthand. They spoke of the sanctuary's successes in preserving wildlife and restoring the environment. Soon, other conservationists and environmentalists caught wind of the story. People began asking questions about the black lion, about the sanctuary, and about the remarkable efforts being made to protect it. Sarah's phone rang constantly. Calls came from journalists, wildlife advocates, and even governments, all eager to learn more. But Sarah held firm to the decision they had made months ago. The black lion's location remained confidential. Instead of giving in to the mounting pressure to release information, Sarah and her team focused on what they could control, the sanctuary and the work they were doing to protect not just the black lion, but all the creatures that called this part of Africa home. However, the pressure was mounting, public interest was growing, and the black lion's story had caught the attention of the world. The media frenzy was intensifying. People from around the globe were showing up in the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the fabled creature. Despite their best efforts to protect the lion's privacy, it seemed as though the allure of the black lion was too strong to resist. One day, Sarah was sitting in her office at the research station when she received an urgent phone call. It was from Marcus, one of her lead researchers. His voice was urgent, laced with a sense of worry. "Sarah, we've got a problem," he said.
"What's going on?"
Sarah asked, her heart sinking. "Somebody's found the sanctuary. There are tourists, loads of them. They're coming here to look for the black lion," Marcus explained, frustration clear in his voice. "We tried to stop them, but they're persistent. They're getting too close to the protected areas." Sarah felt a surge of panic. The sanctuary was meant to be a safe haven, a place where the black lion and other endangered species could thrive without the risk of human interference. She knew that this could spell disaster. If too many outsiders found out about the black lion's location, the entire sanctuary could be compromised. She quickly gathered the team and made her way to the sanctuary, arriving to find a small crowd gathered near the entrance. Some of the tourists were respectful, but many of them were determined to get closer, to try to catch a glimpse of the black lion for themselves. It didn't take long for Sarah to realize that the situation was getting out of control. There were too many people, too much attention, and too many risks. "Listen to me," Sarah said, addressing the crowd with authority. "This is a protected area. You are not allowed to approach any closer. We are doing important work here, and the black lion is not a tourist attraction." The tourists reluctantly began to back off, but Sarah could see the disappointment in their eyes. She understood their fascination. The black lion was a living legend, and the temptation to see it in person was irresistible. But she also knew that their presence here could be the beginning of the end for the sanctuary. If they were allowed to continue, the delicate balance of this fragile ecosystem could be destroyed. That evening, Sarah and her team met to discuss their next steps. It was clear that the sanctuary's secrecy was no longer viable. The world was demanding answers, and the black lion had become too significant to remain hidden. But Sarah couldn't help but feel conflicted. On one hand, they had succeeded in creating a protected environment for the lion, but on the other, the black lion's fame was spreading, and the pressure was becoming overwhelming. "What do we do now?" Marcus asked, looking to Sarah for guidance. "We can't hide anymore," Sarah replied, her voice heavy with the weight of her decision. "The world is watching. We have to be transparent about what we're doing, but we have to do it on our terms." It was decided then that the sanctuary would open its doors to the public, but with strict regulations. Only those who were willing to respect the land and its wildlife would be allowed to enter. The team would work with local governments to establish sustainable ecotourism programs that would benefit both the sanctuary and the surrounding communities. It wasn't the ideal solution, but it was the only way to protect the black lion and the sanctuary's future. The announcement was made shortly after, and the response was overwhelming. People from all over the world wanted to come see the black lion, to experience the sanctuary and witness the incredible conservation efforts firsthand. It was a bittersweet victory. Sarah knew that the pressure to keep the sanctuary intact would only grow, but she also knew that this was a unique opportunity to showcase the power of conservation and the importance of preserving endangered species. As the weeks passed, Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to ensure the sanctuary's success. They implemented new security measures, built visitor centers, and established strict guidelines for visitors. The black lion remained a rare and elusive creature, but now it was part of a larger story. A story about the resilience of the natural world and the people who were fighting to protect it. The sanctuary became a beacon of hope, drawing attention not just to the black lion, but to the broader issue of wildlife conservation. It became a place where people could witness the beauty of nature in its purest form, and it became a symbol of what was possible when communities and conservationists worked together. But Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. The challenges were far from over. The world was watching, and the black lion's story had become a rallying cry for the protection of the planet's most endangered species. The sanctuary was no longer just a haven for the black lion. It had become a symbol of a global movement, one that aimed to protect the wild places that were still left on Earth. As Sarah stood in the middle of the sanctuary, watching a group of visitors tour the area, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The black lion, once a symbol of rarity and mystery, had become a symbol of hope, and that she knew was the greatest victory of all. The transformation of the sanctuary from a hidden refuge to a global symbol of conservation had far-reaching consequences. The world, with its insatiable thirst for discovery, had turned its eyes to this small corner of Africa, and Sarah's team was now thrust into the spotlight. The black lion was no longer just a creature of legend. It was a living, breathing testament to the power of human commitment to nature. But this newfound fame brought with it a fresh set of challenges, ones that no one had fully prepared for. As the sanctuary opened its doors to the public, the number of visitors steadily grew. Tourists from all walks of life, from seasoned conservationists to curious travelers, flocked to witness the black lion in its natural habitat. The sight of the majestic animal, its coat as dark as midnight against the golden savanna, became a rare privilege. But the influx of people also meant the risks of human interference were growing. The team worked tirelessly to maintain the delicate balance. They introduced educational programs, where visitors could learn about the importance of preserving the environment and the challenges faced by endangered species. But not everyone respected the sanctity of the sanctuary. Some came for a glimpse of the black lion, others for selfies and footage that they could share online. The rush to capture the perfect shot threatened to undermine everything Sarah and her team had worked for. One evening, after a long day of managing the increasing number of tourists, Sarah found herself once again alone in her office. The glow of the computer screen was the only light in the room. Her thoughts were consumed with the black lion and the future of the sanctuary. Could they maintain this balance of openness and protection? How long could they safeguard the lion from the ever-present threats of poachers, wildlife traffickers, and even overzealous tourists? The weight of these questions pressed down on her, but she knew she had no choice but to keep fighting. The first major test of the sanctuary's security came unexpectedly. One morning, just as the sun began to rise over the savanna, the team was alerted to a breach at the perimeter. Someone had snuck past the security barriers and was found attempting to capture footage of the black lion using illegal methods. The individual, a well-known wildlife photographer, had ignored the sanctuary's strict rules and was caught trying to lure the black lion with bait. The news of this breach sent shockwaves through the sanctuary and the entire conservation community. When Sarah was informed, she couldn't believe it. How could someone so experienced disregard the rules, especially with the fragile state of the sanctuary? The
The consequences for the sanctuary were immediate. The incident sparked a media frenzy, and the sanctuary faced backlash for not being vigilant enough. In response, Sarah called an emergency meeting. She knew the next steps were critical, both for the future of the Black Lion and the integrity of the sanctuary's mission. "We need to be stricter," Sarah said to the team, her voice unwavering. "This can't happen again. We have to set an example for the world. If we're going to protect the Black Lion, we have to make sure we do it right. We need to increase security measures and enforce even stricter rules." The team worked around the clock to implement new security protocols, including tighter restrictions on who could access certain areas of the sanctuary and the installation of additional surveillance equipment. They also increased the presence of local wildlife rangers to deter poachers and prevent any further violations. But despite these efforts, the incident served as a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. The Black Lion was a symbol of hope, but it was also a magnet for human greed and exploitation. In the aftermath of the breach, Sarah made the difficult decision to temporarily close the sanctuary to the public. It was a painful choice, but one she believed was necessary. The sanctuary had to regain control, and the Black Lion had to be protected above all else. The closure sent a clear message to the world. The sanctuary was not a place for tourists seeking thrills. It was a place for conservation and education. During this time, Sarah and her team turned their focus inward. They continued their research on the Black Lion's behavior, tracking its movements and studying its role within the ecosystem. The lion, ever elusive, had become more reclusive in recent months. Its movements seemed to follow a pattern, but it was clear that it was aware of the increasing human presence around its territory. The Black Lion was a creature of the wild, and it would not be easily tamed or controlled. The closure also gave Sarah and the team the opportunity to strengthen their relationships with local communities. They worked closely with village leaders, educating them about the importance of conservation and ensuring that the benefits of the sanctuary were felt by everyone. By fostering these partnerships, they hoped to create a network of protection that extended beyond the sanctuary's borders. As the months passed, the sanctuary slowly reopened, but under much stricter guidelines. They implemented a reservation system, allowing only a limited number of visitors at a time. This ensured that the sanctuary remained a peaceful place for both the wildlife and those who truly respected the land. The Black Lion, now more elusive than ever, became a symbol of what could be accomplished when people worked together to protect the planet's most endangered species. Despite the challenges, Sarah found a renewed sense of hope. The Black Lion had endured centuries of hardship, surviving in a world that constantly encroached on its territory. It had weathered the storm of human interference and had come out stronger on the other side. And Sarah too had weathered her own storm, one of doubt, pressure, and uncertainty. She knew that there would be more obstacles ahead, but she was determined to keep fighting. The Black Lion's legend continued to grow, not just as a rare and magnificent creature, but as a symbol of the importance of wildlife conservation. The sanctuary had become a beacon of hope, not only for the Black Lion but for all the endangered species that depended on the land for survival. Sarah's mission had grown beyond just protecting the lion. It was about protecting the wild places that remained on Earth and ensuring that they were not lost to history. As Sarah stood once again at the edge of the sanctuary, watching the sun set over the savannah, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The journey had been long, and the road ahead was still uncertain. But for now, the Black Lion was safe, and that for Sarah was the greatest victory of all.